Their podcast is brought to you by AB1 Studios. These episodes won't be televised or monetized, but comments may be criticized. Enter at your own risk. Language may not be suitable for anybody under the age of 18, but enter at your own risk. This is a vibe. Enjoy. Plus ones, thank you for joining me again for another episode, and welcome. You are now in the Blair again. So I do want to make one statement. I got Jeezy winning the verses, but maybe I'm just being biased because I'm not all the way familiar with Gucci music. But shout out to Gucci because he had put on a lot of people in Atlanta and elsewhere. But that's all I gotta say about that. Now, moving on to a more relative topic. Me. You know, I have been really just winging a lot of things lately. And on my first episode, I was addressing Keke Palmer's backlash, the new presidents, and just, the verses in general. But today, I'm going to reposition this podcast again, because this is my show and you are in my vibe, in my space. I want to continue to thank you for all who are listening and all who are supporting. Go check out my Too Idle for a Title podcast on all streaming platforms. Brought to you by Anchor. So I've been thinking about some things this past week. I was thinking about just how toxic, I can be. I'm gonna keep it personal. Not gonna speak for any other man. Not gonna talk about what women do to be toxic. But I'm gonna talk about me and my toxicity. For me, me, I'm very much genuine, caring, loving, giving individual. And maybe being humble is the best thing for me. But then maybe it's not, because I think people fail to really acknowledge just how great of a person I am compared to who they would probably be, kind of pay attention to otherwise. But my toxicity, I can never say the word right. But me, I've done some things not just in relationships, but it's also in, just being a friend. You know what I mean? Like, I want to be always want to be transparent, very low key, very quiet dude, but I'm always outspoken, always honest. And if I may just share this with you all, I am a very selfish person, to say the least. And what I mean is that with me being as giving and caring and loving that I am, not wanting or expecting anything in return, I get a little discouraged because even though I don't want it, I'm not even gonna say I don't expect it, even though I don't want it or like ask for it, I do have expectations of the people that, I give my time to, but I kind of want it the way I want it. And that is pretty much toxic in a way, because I feel like when I want to be bothered, I want to be bothered, but I don't always want to be bothered. I can be a little worrisome at times when it comes to, people that I care about, or even people that I admire. But that's just because I'm just like, hey, I don't like wasting time, you know. So I can be a little selfish. That's my toxic trait. As a man, as a friend, as a lover, whatever. But God is still working on me. So that's where I have to commend all my friends, all my associates, and all my past relationships and whatnot, because me being a father and me being a husband, which I'm not no more, but it taught me a lot of things. And that was that I was selfish. I knew I was selfish, but I didn't realize how selfish I was. I remember when, it's kind of wild because, me and my ex-wife, we were friends for a long time before we even got together. But in all honesty, we didn't talk that much before we got together. When we got together, we, like I said, I was just, I was in DC, coming back down from DC. Came stayed with my mom for a while. Stayed over there for a little bit with my ex-wife, and then we ended up moving in together, had our son, got married maybe like a year later, and the rest is history from there. Been married for like a year and some change before we got divorced. But now 4 years later, I can say we are now co-parenting our son Jameson, who is my best friend. Man, I love my son. I love being a father, and it's very much difficult, being a full-time. Let me just address this as far as being like a full-time parent. A full-time parent is one who is just being a full-time parent. Just from from the definition of what I understand, a full-time parent is someone who is doing nothing but taking care of, your children. So if you work and you go and you got a job and you're not with your children all day throughout the day, more so you can only really be a full-time parent if you're at home being a parent. I think, but I do wanna just express just how much I enjoy being a father, just how much I love being a father, and how much regret that I show that I made some bad decisions when I was married, and it caused me from really being with my son on an everyday basis. But not going to dwell on that because my son loves me. We have a great relationship, and I cannot be more happier. Life don't always go the way you want it, and not everything that you manifest is gonna manifest into a perfect thing, but that will be held out for another time. Which leads me to Sensitive Daddy. I was skeptical whether I wanted to talk about this episode or not, but since I'm on the topic of my son and married life and my toxicity, let me just express what Sensitive Daddy is. Sensitive Daddy is a brand that I created mainly personally kind of for me, but it will be more applicable for whoever else wants to support it. And Sensitive Daddy, which is spelled SINCETIVE, is just pretty much just means when someone who, like, it's just to express more of like being a dad, a proud dad, but it's a different type of being a different type of dad. Sin. Not always being the best parent, but a proud parent. More so a dad who actually cares and wants to be there for their children, mainly so because being a parent, being a dad comes with some issues, but it also comes with some incentive. Being a father and being a dad is two different things. I'm just happy to be both, and I actually also had the pleasure of being a dad to my son's sisters and sister Leilani, who I helped raise up until probably like 5, to a degree. I'm Daddy Anthony to her. So this episode was right now like 15 minutes in. I just wanted to come up here and just talk about the the pl- the pros of being a dad, a parent, if you will, because I think as a black man, a black single father, divorced man, especially in America, there's a lot of cons, and there's a narrative that's out here where you know men and women believe that there's a majority of, well, I'm not even, well, maybe, but there's a narrative that black men don't take care of their children. That's still a narrative that is pretty much acknowledged more, that it acknowledged more. I'm sorry, I'm looking at a message that I was getting. It acknowledged more, and again, it's like out of sight, out of mind. So I understand that there are going to be some things that will be like missing. Um, Me and my ex-wife had some, it was some trouble, in the beginning of, our separation and certain things. Again, I don't, neither one of us comes from, money, so we have an understanding there. And I think, and just from my experience, in my experience, I come from like the same thing. My parents, they didn't always have a perfect relationship. I mean, I remember growing up, like my parents separated and divorced when I was like 10 years old. A little bit older than my son, but yet still young. So I do want to acknowledge that I can understand sometimes, our children can be a reflection of us along with our significant other and sometimes our parents. So it's always a cycle there. So, I know, I'm sure she don't mind me sharing this, but same thing with my ex-wife. Her parents, no, they got divorced, but she was a grown up. She was an adult. She was like, they got divorced maybe a little bit before I got with her. But sometimes we don't talk about the issues that may cause other issues or trigger other issues. But I want to focus on the positive, the good. And again, I don't want to give, give any energy to things that are no longer relevant. But I don't know. Maybe it is a lot more relevant than I want to give credit for. But I want to focus on the positive, which is being a parent, being a dad. My son, he's 4, and he is like a young man in a sense. Like, I promise you, from before he was even born, he's been all over the place. And it might be a cliche, and I'm not being biased when I say this, because this is just from what I experienced. Again, I have a lot of children in my life, been around a lot of kids. But my son is a very unique young man. And the reason why I say young man is because he has always been kind of like independent in a sense, from like say like I remember when he, just from the day he was born, he was just always just quiet. He just was always be like he couldn't stay still, you know what I mean? And I know that's probably typical for a boy or even for a kid and everything, but when I tell you, like, he was probably like one of the most unique kids I ever known, seen. I'm not lying, because there was certain things that he was doing that I didn't ever see any other child do. Like I remember this time when he was in his high chair. I was in the room, and I think my ex-wife was in the other room, or in the bathroom or something. Man, he got out of that thing. He wasn't even. I'm trying to think. Was he one? I don't think he was one yet. He might have been one, but he climbed out of that thing. I come out the room, then I'm looking. I'm like, hey, I told mom, like, how he get? He went in the bathroom with her, so I'm like, how he get in here? And then, like, cause I didn't put him out. So what I did next was, okay, I put him back in there. Go back in the room again. Cause I'm like, I had to test this out. Go put him back in the car seat. Get him out, go in the room again. So I'm peeking out the room to see what he does. I'm like, he's climbing out. And the thing about it was, he was so smart about it, where, he stood up. He kind of like put his hands on the couch, or the little thing on the little, what's the little table, to make sure, I guess, trying to balance himself. And then it kind of like just turns and slides down and let go. And I'm like, oh man, that was that was actually pretty funny. And I just remember, like, my son doing that when he was like a real young baby. Him being 4 now, he's even, he's just a tough boy. Like he falls, and he hurts himself, or well, I'm not even gonna say he hurts himself. He bruises, he cuts himself, cuts himself up. As far as like when he falls and might hit, and then he might have like a little cut or bruise or something, but he does not react to it. He doesn't cry. I think the only time my son really cries is when he don't get his way. Because even when we would spank him, and I mean, he would really just be like, oh yeah, he would eat those spankings. I think there's been a few times where he would, but as he gets older and he progresses, it's just like, man, he's just a remarkable young man. And the only why I call him a young man is because it's like he has he's like more spirit than anything. It's like his flesh is not even like a thing. Like, he pretty much does what he wants with respect that he knows he's not supposed to do certain things. Like he listens to me and his mom and everyone, his adults and stuff, but he somehow still finds ways to do something. And not in a bad way. It's just the fact that hey, he really knows how to sway his way into things. Like he'll sit here and make suggestions. He be like, all right, he'll be like, hey, he'll ask for the usual tablet, and then you tell him no, and then he'll be like, all right, well, can I go do it in the morning and be good in the morning? And I'm like, well, you gotta be good anyway. But I mean, sometimes for me, me being, like I said, I wanted to be a parent, so my parenting might be a little bit different from most people. I think that goes, that's a testament as well, because I think sometimes when you just come across being a parent, and I'm not saying that that we intentionally had them when we did, but me, I always wanted to be a dad. I always wanted to be a parent, and the fact that for a long time I didn't even think I was able to have any. But things work out how they work out, and then, like I said, it wasn't no medical thing where the doctor said I couldn't have any, but it was just like, man, I didn't have. We always had some. I had some slip ups in past relationships, and nothing seemed to have went on. But I I do discipline my child. However, I'm not one of these parents that it's more off emotions. I think a lot of times when we discipline our children, sometimes just based on what I see and based on how even myself growing up, is that it's a lot of times it's based on us doing something, and it's an emotional thing. Like when my son, and I'm gonna even say his sister, because when I was married, when me and my ex-wife was together, we was, like I said, I was raising her as well, and I remember, when we would tell them to do things, like say, stop jumping on that furniture, stop, don't go in there, don't mess with that, and they would do it anyway. So, the thing is, this is just what I personally believe, is that there's always going to be some type of karma. Children deals with karma as well. So when oftentimes when you tell your child not to do something, they still do it. You can spank them and pop them, or punish them, but for mine, they always seem to, before I could even react, something would happen. They would fall off. Maybe they would fall off the couch. Maybe they would slip and fall, and whether they cried or whatnot, they learned the lesson. So it was something that I had to think about, because even just listen when I listen to certain parents and read certain things, I mean, like, what, they make a good point. That this one guy, he had made a point where he was like, hey, he remember when he used to he was like, he was growing up, and his mom used to always tell him, don't mess with something, and I think he had broke a lamp or broke a vase or something, and then he had cut himself, or something, where he fell down the stairs or something. But his he's like, his mom would spank, but still like whoop his butt, and he was like, well, I just learned my lesson right there, and it's like, you still want to kind of punish me for that. That was my punishment. And that was kind of made me realize. I said, what, that's true. Like when I would tell my son or daughter, like, hey, don't mess with this, or don't jump on the furniture, and then they fall off the furniture, or hurt themselves for messing with it anyway. I'm like, all right, well, hey, I'll have to clean it up. I'll have to go and pick them up and do that. But it's like, do I still spank them, or is that them from is that what they get for not listening? It's very much a judgment call when we do that. But I really enjoy overall being a dad. You know, it's a thrill for me. You know, again, like I said, I haven't really been able to see my son every day. You know, like I said, you know, I got a job. You know, I got other things going on, but I do make sure that I talk to him every day. And my son's always asking to come to my house and see me, and that brings joy to bring tears of joy to me because you know I know I'm aware that one day it won't be like that. You know, I'm just trying to still manage a life for myself and build up, you know, a legacy for him. You know, it gets hard, but the joy about being a dad, besides just making sure that he has everything he needs and all that, is just the fact that you know that they love me. You know, my son, my daughter, both they love me. You know, my stepdaughter, you know, she still loves me. You know, even though you know I'm not, you know, with her mother anymore. You know, she still loves me. You know what I'm saying? Even the oldest, even her oldest, you know, have an oldest daughter as well. And then it just makes me go back to think about when you know when it was just my goddaughter, um, and you know she was like my daughter. That was like okay, this is if this is gonna be my, you know, this is my baby, you know, my heart, and she still is my heart, you know. But you know, like I said, there's joys in being a parent. I just wanted to express that because I don't think there's not a lot of I don't see a lot of parents, let alone dads, talk about just how much they really enjoy or how much they love being a parent. Yes, it's work. Yes, it's, you know, has ups and downs, especially when you're not with the mother. But you know, anything can be worked out. You know, me and her, like I said, I'm not on child support. Thankfully, you know, I do I do what I do. You know, she gets what you know. We have something worked out for that. And then and like I said, I never it was never it was it's never been a problem for with me um seeing them. You know, we live in the same area. Like I said, I call them, talk to them at least once a day, if and then when I'm able to see him or when I'm out near, I'll see him even for a moment. You know, there's time where he would stay with me. I would have him, and you know, we have a good time. You know, he's very intelligent dude. And like I said, with him just being 4, I'm excited to see how he's gonna turn out. Cause I remember when I was 4, and I remember how much of a daddy boy I was. And you know, my dad was in the military, and I like I said, I don't know how it was for him, how he felt as far as not being with us all the time. And I'm like, if shoot, I can imagine him missing us and wanting to, you know, be there for us. You know, but my dad was always there for me. You know, even though him and my parents, even when they, my parents separated and divorced, you know, he was like, again, he always we called him, and he was always there. You know, my dad was always in, you know, our lives, me and my brothers and sisters' lives. And maybe that's where I get the passion from, but I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I asked. I think I might have asked him, but I think wanting to be a parent kind of goes a long way, opposed to someone who just came across it. There's a lot of people who might have not wanted kids and ended up having kids, and they're just responsible. So salute to every dad out here who take care of their kids, who loves their kids, who's taking their responsibility, taking accountability for that, whether they wanted to be a child, whether they wanted to be a parent or not. Because there's a lot of men out here who don't take care of the kids, and there's a lot of men out here who's only paying child support but don't see their kids, and there's a lot of men who only see their kids when they are trying to, see their baby mama and get some ass or something. But you know, the positive side is for me. I ain't never been that dude. I really much enjoy being a father, being a dad, being an uncle, just being a positive male role model. I think even as a child, when I was younger, like again, I express this all the time. I had a lot of aspirations to be certain things. I mean, at one point, I wanted to, be, hey, I wanted to work in, the wrestling organization. I wanted to work, you know, somewhere just simple. I didn't really have a big aspiration to, to be anything too major. I enjoyed writing. I enjoyed expressing myself. My only aspiration was just, I just wanted to be a role model. Like I said, when you're a kid, there's a lot of things that I wanted to be. But once I got an understanding of, who I was, and the fact that, because I did go to school. I went to school for IT. I went to school for computer graphic design. I was just, it was just something I was doing because I was always into computers. This was like pre-MySpace days, and, but then I dropped out of college. Ended up trying to go back, do online, maybe it would be something different, dropped out again. So it's just certain things. I mean, so I was like, man, I don't I have a college education, I'm just not a college graduate. I have knowledge in, technology and things, but I'm not a scholar in that. But, just overall, my the biggest dream aspiration was just being a positive male role model. Me having my father in my life, him being in the military, me having an older brother, him being into martial arts and being in the military as well. That wasn't something that I wasn't an athletic person. I just used to I used to just be a homebody. I was like a homebody. I was a homebody. I had friends, but I was into like video games and wrestling and things. So, as I got older, I just been like, man, I need to do something with myself. So I took a break after high school, then I got a regular job. Then I ended up going to school for computer graphic design. Didn't fall through, went out, then that was that. Try to go back again for IT, just maybe I can do better than that, and then that went out. But I always enjoyed being, because again I got a big family. I have I can't even tell you how big my family is, but I always kind of been. I was like a little cousin, then I was a big cousin also. I used to love kids. I always enjoyed kids. Cause I just like, because I wasn't like I had pets, we had dogs and stuff, but kids were just always, they were so cute. And when I got older, I mean, cause I was a relationship type of guy, and this goes back to a part of me being toxic, where I mean, I like who I like, but I didn't always get my way. So I think sometimes with that, because I was always an expressive person, but I was a quiet dude. Me not always getting my way, me not always really getting the attention that I needed from, or that I wanted. I'm gonna say that I wanted from people as a young individual. I guess that kind of turned into me being a real selfish person. I'm the one with the car. I'm the one with the money. I'm the one with the job. I'm the one that's going out of my way. I should want what I want because I'm putting in work. But not. But me being genuine. Sometimes my selfishness will get in the way of that because I have 'cause I do have certain um needs and aspirations, and certain, like, I do, like, we all require some type of love. And I don't know if that's part of why I wanted to be a parent, because I knew that that was a big responsibility even at a younger age. But again, I'm not the one that got to carry the child. But I just knew that because there are kids out here who feel unloved, who feel unwanted, and I'm not saying that that's why I always wanted to be a parent. I just think me wanting to always be a parent because just because I love children. Um, they keep you young, and they teach you a lot about yourself. I ain't saying I want a bunch of kids, but I would probably, my son, I'm good with my son. Like I said, I got my stepdaughters, I got my goddaughter, and all that stuff. But I would probably have one more or two more maybe. But I got my son. I think God got me where He wanted me to be. And hopefully, hopefully, and this is something that's very important. When I want to make sure, and this is why I'm very careful now. I want to be very careful now who I decide to, spend, my energy on, is because if I am to have another child, and like I said, I don't know, maybe I'll end up being another somebody else's stepdad or whatever, but I want to be in a more financial place, a more financial stability. Have more financial stability. Um. So yeah. For all my men listeners, if you don't have any kids and you want kids, just make sure, you be smart about it. Make sure you have a child with someone that have a child with someone that you're gonna love forever, or someone that you're morally crazy about, someone that you gonna really uh, care for. I mean, things can change. Like me, like, I never intended on being divorced or anything, but when it comes to kids, I think they're part of being a good parent, you have to have a good partner or a good good partner. And I think, I believe that, my son mom is a great, good mom, great mom. And like I said, we all have struggles. So, but I just want to encourage everyone who do want kids to make good decisions before having. Sometimes sex can be addicting, but you have to take those take into account that having kids isn't just about like having someone to love. You got to be able to take care of them. You got to be there for them emotionally, financially, and mentally. You know what I'm saying? And that's just one last point I wanted to make. Me being a dad, I had to think about, I had to look at myself mentally and be like, we have to, our kids have to know who's boss. They have to know who the adult. However, at the same time, we gotta realize that children have a mind also. I don't know how many spiritual people I have up here, but just like how we believe in God and evil spirits, we have to keep in mind that God and the devil can use our children just as much as they use us, because they are human beings. And sometimes we don't take that into account, so when we're disciplining our kids or when we're saying certain things to our kids, we gotta realize that they're influenced too by the world. So what we say to them is important. I always tell my daughters that, I love you, you're beautiful. Same way I tell my son, like I told him he's gonna be better than me, but he has to listen. I told him, and this is something I always say all the time, and I'm gonna be done. I told him from when he was in the womb, like, nobody, like, you're gonna be better than me. Nobody gonna be able to tell you nothing. You don't let nobody tell you who you are. And I think that's kind of what, and I think he might have caught that, and that's when it just went left from there, because now I gotta kind of like sometimes like chase them and like hold them down to stop certain things. I was just giving some advice, from my brothers, that because I'm not very much known, and like I said, this is my exclusive podcast. I'm not much known, I probably need to shorten my episodes, and I take heed to that. And like I said again, this particular podcast is on SoundCloud, and it's for those who wouldn't mind listening to me for 30 minutes, for an hour, or whatever. I try not to never go over an hour, and of course, I can come back to smaller. But I just love stories. I think there's a purpose in podcast. Like if I want to do a 10-minute, like I'll have some 10-minute episodes maybe, but that's more so for like vlogging and stuff. I think the podcast, when I do the shows, it kind of address certain things. But this one was a particular. I wanted to touch bases on being a parent, being a father, because Thanksgiving is coming up and Christmas is coming up, and I know it's hard for a lot of parents right now, especially with this pandemic going on, still COVID. Me living in Virginia right now, and I think they started up. They went back to phase 2 Monday, It's Thursday right now, today, so they're supposed to be closing up. The restaurants again like at 10 o'clock. You know, I'm a door dasher right now. As I just been part from my job. I door dash right now. I mean, everything works out for when it works out for. I'm thankful for my parents for helping me out in these times. Um, and everybody who helps me out. I think me, doing these podcasts actually helps me get through certain things because I listen to a lot of podcasts, and of course those are longer, and I try not to try to make it too long. But I think there's some things that I just love to share. And even if you want, even if you're listening, even if you made it to this point, even if you made it this far into this episode, and let me just tell you this: if you have made it this far and you decide you want to only listen to a couple minutes at a time, do that. If you only want to listen to 5 minutes, do that. The point of my podcast is I'm going against the grain as far as getting narrative. I'm expressing myself, giving you me in a form of audio, and just putting it out there, putting it all on the table. I have so much to say. I got a lot to say. I can space this out in so many different ways and space it out on the ways, but sometimes I just feel like, hey, let me go ahead and say what I gotta say. If I don't get any views, that's fine, but it's out there in the universe. It's out there, it's available. Because I know one day when there is a amount of, I do have a number of people who wants to maybe get some advice from me, or maybe hear what I have to say. And again, I'm not doing it for fame or anything, but I do want to make note that when there is notoriety, if I happen to get the notoriety that I probably need to have, people who are fans of me, people who support me, people who actually, appreciate the information, the stories, or anything that I'm giving out, they're gonna do what they're gonna go out of their way and come back to the beginning. They're gonna come back and feel out like, hey, where's because that mean not everybody do it, but I know for those who, when you're a fan of somebody, when you support somebody, when you love somebody, you're gonna do your research. You're gonna go back and look at old stuff. That's just how the world is. But I take heed, so I do appreciate, my brothers, for expressing their, insight on that. And again, I don't do it on purpose. However, I do need to say what I want to say, which is, again, that's probably part of my selfishness, because I can definitely take advice, but at the same time, the advice that I take doesn't always, get received the way that they was probably intended for them to be received. But I do hear that. I do hear what they were meaning. I'm not, I don't really have the notoriety. But like I said again, this is only for people who actually do want to hear what I have to say, who do know who I am, because again, this is SoundCloud. Know who's gonna go on Soundcloud and listen to somebody unknown without them really caring, I guess. But but yeah, that's all. Like I mentioned before. Tonight's the verses. I really do have Jeezy going because again, I'm not that familiar with his music, Gucci's music. I do acknowledge that he does have some records out there, but I still got Jeezy. I think Jeezy got better content, better hit records. But this is actually gonna be something interesting. This is actually gonna be something. Oh man, it's at 9. I'm gonna actually probably go out here, hit these streets for a little bit, come back, or maybe matter of fact, it's on Instagram Live, so I don't even have to go come back. But it's gonna be good. I think it's gonna be a good versus. This is gonna be a very different versus because for those of you who know the history of Gucci and Jeezy, you know they had some real beef, and if you know, you know. But I'm definitely gonna say a prayer for the verses and stuff. But yeah, in closing, again, I just want to thank everyone who have listened. I want to thank everyone who has been subscribing, liking, and once again, you was in the Blair, and I hope you got something out of this, and hopefully you come back. And once again, I still haven't figured out how I'm gonna do this, but it has been a week since the first episode. So please, please, please follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Blessed One Up, BLSD1, the number one, UP, and go to AB1 Studios on Facebook. There's a link in my bio. You can go there. Shout out to all the fathers out there. Most praise and honor to all the mothers. Thank God. Stay prosperous. Stay positive. And stay productive. And I'll see y'all next time. Or talk to y'all next time. Bye.